welcome. As I said before, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending upon where you are in the world. And we are thrilled to hear from you, and thrilled to have you as part of our first session and first episode of what we hope is going to be an ongoing process around the software. I thought I'd start off with just a quick explanation about some of our support options. So getting in touch with the team here at Loc8 is really terribly easy. The obvious one, or the first and obvious one, and one that products like ours obviously offer, is email support, and that is available at service@loc8.com. So if you have any questions or you need any help, please don't hesitate to get in touch with us. You only need to send us an email, and that email is service@loc8.com. The other option that we offer is our in-app chat support option. So basically, when you log into your Loc8 system, you'll notice either a clear circle on the bottom left-hand corner, or if you've added a picture or an avatar of who you are, you can go ahead and click on that little symbol here on the bottom left-hand corner, come up to the help button in that list, and then all that you need to do is go ahead and click on send us a message, and you'll be able to get in touch with us in a chat option. The really nice thing about this chat option is that previous conversations are accessible under the See All Your Conversations button. And what that means is that when you go ahead and you have a conversation with us, and then that situation of a couple of weeks down the track, you forget what that conversation was, or you remember that you had a conversation with us and you wanted to sort of re-reference that information, you only need to click on that See All Your Conversations option to be able to go ahead and regain or get back to that message that you had with us a few weeks ago. So from a support perspective, service@loc8.com, or your little avatar on the bottom left-hand corner, and then the help button. So let's get cracking here. So basics of job creation and management. We are obviously, as I'm sure you are now well aware of, we're an asset management and job management product, and that's the heart and soul of the software. We have a whole bunch of really great options and add-ons that are available with the product around things like customer management, quote management, of course, job management, and invoice management, and then the all-important asset management that I mentioned before. So job management and job creation really is terribly easy with our software. The way I like to describe it is that question number one that I need to be answering when it comes to job creation is, what type of job am I creating? And so what I'm doing here is I'm clicking on the create button here on the top right hand corner, and I am choosing what we refer to as the job type to answer that first question. I won't get into configuration today about some of the config options that are available. What I will say is that this list is fully customizable, and these options that I have here have been added in by myself. And the really nice thing about any one of these job types is that when I choose a particular job type, say for instance the electrical job type, I know and I have the confidence that the job number that's associated to this particular job will come up as an ELE job. So it means I can go ahead and I can actually start looking at jobs from a numbering perspective and get a little bit of an insight as to what type of jobs we're dealing with here as well. So let me go ahead and let me create a very simple job here. So I'll click on the create button, as I said, on the top right-hand corner. I'll choose the type of job that I'm creating. In this case, I'm going to choose an electrical job. And the very first thing you'll notice here is that it opens up to the job subject at the very top here. One of the really awesome things about the Loc8 software is that doing things in our software is really easy and really quick. And job creation is a classic example of that. Job creation requires only a minimum of 2 pieces of information before you can go ahead and you can actually click on the all important create button on the bottom right hand corner. Now, of course, there's a lot more information that you will put in there, and we understand that. But the point here is that creating jobs is actually really easy, and it's really quick. So all I need to do is go ahead and pop in a subject. And so let's just call this a test electrical job. I'll go ahead and I'll choose my customer from my list. So let's go ahead and I'll choose Apple Corp as my customer there. You'll notice also, and I'll highlight here as well, that you can put in new customers if you want to as well. So I'll go ahead and I'll choose Apple Corp. And at this point, what I can do is I can go ahead and I can click on the create button here on the bottom right-hand corner. And I'll do that right now. Now, of course, there's a whole bunch more information that I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add into this particular job to try and add all those helpful pieces of information that I want my technician or my assigned tech to be able to see when I get that job allocated to them. But the key, I suppose, the key takeaway that we'd love to emphasize here at the start here is that job creation is really no more difficult than a subject and a customer. It's just literally that easy. So what I'll do is I'll go back into the job now and I'll go ahead and I'll add in a location. And let me do a search here for a location that I know already exists. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add in a description, something that's a little bit more of a long form version of what this job is. So this is a long form description of this test electrical job. And hopefully that sort of gives you an understanding and an idea as to what you can add in there. It's really giving customers and really giving, customers is really giving technicians a better understanding as to what this particular job is all about. The other thing I'm also going to do is I'm going to go ahead before I allocate this particular job. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add in what we refer to as a couple of tasks. So what are tasks all about? Tasks are all about providing your technicians with guidance about what they need to go ahead and get done. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to choose a couple of tasks here that I'd like my technician to complete. And I'm going to get my technician to complete that work against or at the location that I added in, the Loc8 head office here. And click on save, and those two tasks will appear there. If at this particular location I had, say, some assets, what I could do was I could update, or I could actually get my technician to complete these particular tasks against the one or two of the assets that are at that particular location. Now, I don't have any assets at that particular location, but if I did, it would be as easy as clicking on that pencil symbol to be able to go ahead and update that particular asset as well. So what I've done so far is I've gone ahead and I've created a brand new job. I've popped in a subject. I've added in a customer. I've added in the location where I want my technician to go to. And I've put in or popped in a long form description of that particular job as well. What I'm also going to do is I'm also going to make certain that the priority is correct. That looks good to me. And I'm just going to make certain that when the job needs to be started by and when the job needs to be finished by is also good as well. So these pieces of information are fine. And what I'm ready to do at this point is I'm now ready to go ahead and actually allocate or assign this particular job to one of my technicians, one of my team. Now I can do this right here, and it's very, very easy to do. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do two scenarios here. I'll go ahead and I'll actually set an appointment for this particular job right here, right now, and I'll go ahead and I'll allocate that particular job out to a technician. But what I'm also going to do is I'm also going to rerun. I'm going to recreate this particular job, another test job, and I'll show you a second way that you can go ahead and you can actually allocate or assign this job to a technician and an appointment all at the same time. Almost a kill two birds with one stone type option. So I'll go ahead and I'll set an appointment. Let's say that we go ahead and we set an appointment for tomorrow. And I know it's only going to take 3 hours to get this particular job done. So tomorrow between 8:30 and 11:30. I also know that I've agreed with the end customer. In other words, the person who's requested this particular job, that appointment time frame works for them. So that's awesome. That's fantastic. I'll go ahead and click on select there. And then last, but by no means least, and probably the most important part, is I'll go ahead and I'll allocate this particular job to a technician here. And Russell Wilson, and Russell is the technician that comes up immediately for me there as well. If I go ahead and click on that little plus symbol and then the done button there, I've now gone ahead and I've now allocated that job to Russell, and Russell can go ahead and now actually start doing work on that job tomorrow morning at 8:30. So that's run one, or scenario one, when it comes to job creation. What I'll do now is I'll go ahead and I'll now recreate or create another chess job. But what I'll do is I'll highlight an amazing feature that we have in the form of our calendar option that would allow me to go ahead and have a look at my technician's availability and basically make a decision based on their availability as to who the job would be best allocated to. So let's go ahead. I'll click on the create button there, as I did on the top right-hand corner again. And this time I'm going to choose a different job type. So let's go ahead and let's choose an inspection here this time. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm now going to go ahead and actually pop in, as I did before, a job subject. So this is a test inspection job. Again, I'm going to go ahead and choose my customer. So let's go ahead and choose Apple Corp one more time. And this time, I'm going to go ahead and add in a location for where that job needs to be completed. And I will pop in, as I said before, that long form description. So this is a long form description of this job. I'm going to set the priority. So this time I'm going to set it to high. And what I will then do is I'll then go ahead and I'll add in my tasks at this part of the process. I'll get it done at that particular location. And you'll also notice that there's a bunch of assets that I have at that location, and we'll cover that off in a second here. And we'll click on save. I think the key point here is that I've done all these parts before I've gone ahead and clicked on my create button, because I can do that. But of course, as I mentioned before, job creation really is as easy as popping in a subject and choosing a customer. It can be as easy as just those two pieces of information before you click on the create button on the bottom right-hand corner, or I can go through adding all these extra pieces of information in at the beginning as well. So I'll go ahead and I'll click on that create button on the bottom right-hand corner. So I've got job number 277 there on the top left-hand corner. And then what I want to do now is I want to go ahead and I want to have a look at my technician's availability. So I kind of don't know what my technician's availability is today or tomorrow or for the next couple of days. So I want to have a look at that in my calendar, and I want to be able to go ahead and see, well, who's the best person that I can allocate this particular job? I'm a little bit vague on, what my technician's availability is. So I need to be able to plan their days in the best way possible for the next couple of days here. So what I'll do is, to make things a little bit faster, I'll pull up that job number there. So 277, you'll notice that there in that line. And now I'll go ahead, I'll click on my calendar button on the top right-hand corner here. And what you'll notice here is you'll notice that this is our calendar option. And the really amazing thing about our calendar option is that I get a really handy list of all of my technicians here on the left-hand side. So I can go ahead and I can basically scroll up and down here and have a look at all of my techs for today. And I can go left to right here and have a look at their availability. So my calendar today is really open and really free. And I know also that my customer, that job 277, I know my customer wants to get this job done as quickly as humanly possible. So today's looking good. The availability today is fantastic. I've got no allocated jobs here in any way, shape, or form with regards to technicians and appointments. So this is the perfect scenario. If I needed to expand out past my operating hours or my business hours between 8:30 and 5:30, I could go ahead and just simply click on that show full day option, and that would expand out my availability a little bit more there as well to the full 24-hour period. But I'll go ahead and I'll close that button up. And all that I need to do now to be able to update that job 277 is I simply need to go ahead and click on this little square symbol here on the right-hand side. And what you'll immediately notice is that that particular job that we created is now listed in my list here. Now, here's really the power of the calendar option. Beyond the fact that I can go ahead and I can actually have a look and see what my technicians' availabilities are, and where my day is sitting, I can actually kill two birds with one stone here. I can actually go ahead and I can actually allocate this job to a technician and set an appointment all at the same time, which is amazing because, of course, obviously, as you would have seen before, I had to go ahead and I had to set an appointment, and then I had to jump over and actually allocate a technician, which is fine in some situations. And we know for some of our customers that assigning a technician first and then communicating with the customer as to what a good appointment time is for them is a very, very common workflow for them. And then sometimes, we have customers, and I know we have customers who will speak to their customer and say, what's a good appointment time, or what's a good time for you? And they'll set that appointment, and then they'll allocate a technician. So there you have that flexibility. But the really cool part about this calendar option is I can now go ahead, I can now go ahead and allocate that particular job to a particular technician. And that, in this case, I'm going to assign myself to it. And it will also allocate that appointment as well. So by just dragging and dropping that particular job into my calendar, again, as I said before, I've now killed two birds with one stone, and I can even expand out that particular appointment. So let's go ahead and let me just close off that box there, and I'll add in a couple of hours there. So what I've done here is I've gone up to my calendar button. I've had a look at my technician's availability for the day. And specifically what I have done is I've gone ahead and I've allocated or assigned this particular job not only to myself, but I've also thrown an appointment against it. So that makes that whole job management process so much easier. And if I needed to go ahead and have a look at, say, tomorrow, because this particular customer isn't able to see me today, even though the job was an urgent job. This particular customer isn't able to see me today. I could go ahead and just simply click on that little arrow there and have a look at some availability there. And immediately say, well, Russell, I can't get Russell to do it because Russell's busy, but I could have allocated myself to that particular job. So the purpose here of the calendar, from a job management perspective, and sort of harking back to our theme today about the process of job creation and job management, the purpose of the calendar here is very much to give you as our customers the ability to have a better overall view about how your day is looking, to be able to better allocate work to your team that are free to do that work, and obviously to be able to do that in a quick and efficient manner. Lastly, in this particular area, what I'm able to do also is I can see this particular job number on my calendar, and you'd think that I might have to jump back into that list to be able to go ahead and actually have a look at some of the finer points of this particular job. Well, no, I don't actually have to do that. All I need to do is just double click on the job, and hey presto, that inspector here, or what we call the mini inspector, does appear here on the right hand side. So I can go ahead and I can update this information, and I can go ahead and add in all kinds of additional pieces of information if I needed to do so from this calendar area. So that's the job creation process. And of course, there is so much more that we could go ahead and we can add in to that job if we needed to. But today's goal, as I mentioned at the beginning of this session, was to really sort of highlight how to do job creation, how to do particular things in a quick and efficient manner. What I'd like to do now at this part of our session is I'd like to go ahead and just sort of touch on how to manage jobs. And this whole job management thing is a thing that we get a lot of questions from a lot of our customers around. And of course, it doesn't come to some degree in the form of things like, how do I manage jobs? It comes in the form of, how do I find particular jobs? I do training sessions all the time with customers. One of the very, very common questions that I have is, well, that's great, John, and I see that you can go ahead and you can create jobs. That's awesome. That's fantastic. But, if I get a customer who calls me and says to me, what's going on with my particular job, or Maybe I'm doing some work with a real estate agent and they have a whole bunch of locations that we do work at, and they need to try and find out about what's going on with a bunch of jobs. How do I answer those questions quickly and efficiently? Well, the way that I answer those questions quickly and efficiently, in our opinion, with the Loc8 software, is all around filtration. So what does filtration do? Let me talk very quickly here about what job filtration does, and provide some sort of baseline information about how we see this layout. So what I'm looking at here is I'm looking at a list of jobs. This is my Loc8 system. And you'll notice here in the top left-hand corner that the all option, or the all folder, as I like to call it, is currently highlighted or clicked on. And this is exactly what it hopefully sounds like. And that is, this is my list of all of my jobs, regardless of state, when they were created, all those sorts of bits and pieces. This is since the beginning of time. So I have a total of 281 jobs. Now, I've had a call from one of my customers. My customer at Apple has given me a call, and they've said, "Hey, John, could we get a bit of an understanding as to what's going on with some of the jobs that we have outstanding with you?" And I say, "Sure, no problem at all." And so the very first thing I want to do is I want to limit the amount of jobs that I'm looking at to just the Apple jobs, because I really don't care for now about jobs from the gas company or from anybody else. I'm completely focused on the Apple jobs because they're the ones who are on the phone with me right now, and they're the ones who I need to focus on immediately. So what I do is I begin to, or the analogy I like to use is I begin to paint a picture. So this to me kind of sort of is a blank canvas. I'm looking at everything here, and this is very much a blank canvas. And what I want to do now is I want to try and limit down just the app down to just the Apple stuff. So the first thing I do is I want to go ahead and I want to apply a filter. And that filter is all around my customer, in this particular case, my Apple customer. So I'll go ahead, I'll click on that all button. I'll do a search for Apple and click on apply. So that immediately limits me down, or limits my view down to a total of 93 jobs. And you'll hopefully see that number there decrease there on the top left-hand corner. The next thing I want to do is, I know that I've got my team member from Apple on the phone here, and I validated with them or confirmed with them that what they're really interested in is just finding out what's happening with some outstanding work. So what that means is, from my perspective, that I'm not too terribly worried about anything that's completed or closed. What I would like to do is I'd like to have a look at some jobs that are currently in progress. In other words, they're currently in the pipeline of things to do. So I've gone ahead and I've immediately applied some additional filters here around statuses. And I've explicitly not included any of those completed or closed filters because I'm not too terribly worried about those jobs. Those jobs are done and dusted. They're about history. And again, hopefully what you'll notice here is you'll notice that the job count is beginning to reduce here. And again, with this idea and this concept that what I'm doing is I'm painting a picture here. I'm taking a blank canvas and I'm adding to that blank canvas a bunch of information. I want to see what the Apple Corp jobs are. I want to see the jobs where the statuses are a particular listing, or I specifically don't care about things like completed or closed jobs. And then the very last filter that I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to apply here, as I'm speaking to my member here on the phone, is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to have a look at just the preventative electrical and plumbing jobs. So that immediately limits down my view even farther there. And I go down to now a job count of 17. Now, one really awesome feature that we have with the software, with the Loc8 software, is that you have the ability to look at this list from just a very sort of flat perspective. This is just a list of jobs. But what I can also do, now that I have painted my picture, now that I have taken out all the stuff that I really don't care about for this particular phone call, I can now go ahead and use one of my sorting options. And that sort button that we have here on the top right-hand corner, I get so many amazing, great reactions from. Basically, if I go ahead and click on that sort button, what I can now do is I can now go ahead and rejig or relay out how I'm looking at my jobs. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and apply one of these sort options. The critical thing before I apply one of these sort options is to emphasize here the idea and the concept that what this is not going to do is this is not going to take work out of this list. So my job count of 17 here on the top left-hand corner, well, that job count is going to stay at 17. So that job count is not going to change. What this is about doing, this is about rejigging or basically basically changing the layout of what I'm looking at. So I can sort by appointment. And I immediately notice that I've got 3 here that do not have an appointment at all. I've got some jobs here where the appointments began or fall before today. And then I've got a job here at the very bottom where the appointment is for tomorrow. And that's that test electrical job that we created at the beginning of our session here. I can go ahead and click on the sort function again, and I can sort by when those jobs were created. So created in the last hour, created before last week. I could go ahead and I can sort even by, for instance, status. So we got a couple of checked out, one awaiting some parts. We got 3 that are currently on site. We got a whole bunch here that are just open at the very bottom there. So hopefully what you're taking away from that sort button is that button makes looking at jobs hopefully just that little bit easier. And we've got a whole bunch of additional options here to give you a better handle on what type of jobs what type of jobs you're dealing with. And hopefully it makes the world seem a little less daunting. Hopefully it makes the world seem a little less confusing. As a last sort, I can sort by type. So all my electrical work at the top, all my plumbing work at the bottom. And this is one of these amazing features that we've added in as a result of customer feedback that we're just so terribly proud of when it comes to trying to make life a little bit easier for you from a management perspective. I mean, there's so much more that I could go over. And what I want to do at this point in our training session is I want to touch on a couple of more extra points, and then I'd love to take any questions that anybody has. And you can do that by just simply clicking on the little chat window, the little chat button in this Zoom session, and going ahead and actually sending a question to me. But a couple of the last things I'll mention here from a job management perspective. If I go ahead and I wanted to update a couple of these particular jobs, say I knew that these 3 particular jobs needed to be able to go ahead and just be quickly closed, I could tick those options there on the left-hand side, go ahead and click on that status button and immediately update those jobs and click on done. And that'll immediately update the status of those particular jobs instantaneously for me, and they'll take them away from that particular list. The last thing I'll mention here before I go ahead and I take any sort of questions that people have is some of you may or may not have noticed that there is a little create view option here on the bottom left-hand corner. And what that highlights is the whole idea and the concept that this list here on the left-hand side is actually a list of what we like to refer to or what we like to call views. And basically what that means is that this whole canvas painting concept that I talked about before, this whole idea about how what you're doing is you're taking a blank canvas and you're actually applying to it particular filters around, say, a particular customer, a particular state, a bunch of statuses, maybe some types of jobs that we need to be looking at. What you can actually do is you can actually go ahead and click on the Create View button there on the left-hand side, and I can actually give it a name. So what I'm doing here is I'm basically saying all this amazing work that I've done in the way of sorting and the filters I've applied, well, I want to go ahead and I want to re-reference or load up that particular view on a consistent basis. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and I'll pop in a name here. So John's Apple view. I'm not going to set it as my default view, but what I am going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to share this view so that some of my other team members can get the benefit of my insight as well. And I'll go ahead and I'll click on save there. And you'll notice that view now is added to my list of views here at the very bottom there. So let's go ahead and let's have a look and sort of apply a real world situation here and see what effect that has. So if I go ahead and I click on my all view at the top there, resets all the way back, blank canvas. But if I know that I want to go ahead and I want to have a look at that particular view now, because I know that that view is an awesome view for me. That view is a view that really does all that real filtration quickly based on the Apple requirements. I simply need to come down and click on John's Apple view on the left hand side there, and that'll go ahead and that'll apply. And again, I think the thing I would love for you all to take away here is that what this has done is this has applied all those status filters, all those job type filters, and that customer filter, and most of all, that sort instantaneously. So you don't have to be in a situation where you're thinking about what's going on with Apple, and geez, that was all that layout, and I really wanted to go back to that view and have a look at things from the perspective of how do I do that, or how do I get all that information again. So at this point, what I'd love to do is I'd love to open up the floor, and if you have any questions, then please do fire away, and I will endeavor to answer those at this point. Okay, awesome. So we got a first question here. Actually, we got a couple of questions here. So what I'll do is I'll go over these couple of questions. And as I said before, keep in mind that this session is being recorded, and what we will do is that we will make that recording available online. And what we'll do is that we'll give people access to that recording so that you can go ahead and have a look at that recording at a future date, or whenever you have some time or you need to go ahead and obviously go over it and play and pause and rewind on some of the stuff that I talked about here. So let me go over a couple of questions that I've immediately had here, and thank you so much to the people who've asked those questions there. The first one is how do I go ahead and how do I add a comment to a particular job so that my technician is able to see that in the field, on the mobile application. So adding comments is really easy. But let me just touch on a concept and an idea about our software before I directly answer that question. When I've gone ahead and I've clicked on a particular job here, as I click through this list here, you'll notice that this strip of information here on the right-hand side is updating. Now, we call this strip of information our mini inspector. And the beauty here about the mini inspector is that you can go ahead and there's a lot of things that you can do to update jobs in a quick manner. So if I want to go ahead and I want to have a look at, say, what type of priority is involved with this particular job or what the description of the job is, I can do that with the mini inspector. To directly answer your question, and thank you so much for that, to leave a comment against a job is no more difficult than going ahead and clicking on that comment symbol or that comment bubble and adding in that particular comment to that particular job. And if I wanted to go ahead and have a look at that particular comment, I could go ahead and just simply double click on that job. And that now opens up from my mini inspector, which is that strip of information that was on the right-hand side here, jumps over to the left. And you'll immediately notice here that onto that messages tab, well, there's my test comment that I went ahead and added in. So thank you so much for that question. That's one of those great ones that we're obviously looking to add and to help people out with. Got another question here. I've got a customer here who is looking to go ahead and have a look at the job layout. In other words, they want to have a look at what their end customer or their end technician can see when it comes to looking at this particular job. So to do that is really terribly easy. If I simply go ahead and again, let's go ahead and click on my job one more time. All I need to do, if I wanted to provide my customer with a sort of a quick view of what the job is, because I've created my job, and what I now do is I want to go ahead and I want to allocate to provide them with a quick overview about what the job is. All that I need to do is go ahead and click on my little share and export button here. And then I come down and I click on my copy public link button. I'm going to open up another tab here and paste that link in. And here's that job layout. Now, I know a lot of customers who will provide this information to not only their technician, but they will also provide this information to their end customer, because it gives them a bit of a breakdown as to what's going on with this particular job. Gives them a bit of an understanding as to what's involved in this particular work. And the beauty here also is, as your technician updates the results or updates this particular job and basically classifies these tasks as having been completed, then your end customer can see that, because this is a web page. This is a live document. And so they only have to go ahead and refresh that particular web page, and that information will update near the bottom there. There's nothing there right now because I'm not making any changes to that particular job, but I'm sure you can imagine a situation where your customer would want to keep a track of it and see how things are going with that particular job. So thank you so much. That's fantastic. Thank you so much for that question. I got one last one here, and I'll just triple check and make sure we don't have anything outstanding. Nope, so there's nothing there. I've got one last question here, and that is, I've got a customer here who wants to go ahead and change an appointment or reschedule an appointment. So let me go ahead. Let me grab one of my jobs here that's got an appointment already. And to change that appointment time, all I need to do is go ahead and click on the current appointment and just come down to reschedule. And it's as easy as basically jumping over to a better time. So what we're looking at here, we're in October. I'm going to go ahead and jump over to October the 19th to be exact. I'll set that to tomorrow, and I'll keep that time frame applied. And it's as easy as that. And that's now updated. And also, most importantly, that particular technician, in this case myself, he'll get an update on his mobile application, just to let him know that that particular appointment has now been completed. So thank you so much, everybody, for your time today. Today's session, as I said at the beginning, was very much focused around the idea of job creation and job management. I hope that was helpful. As I mentioned, and I mentioned a couple of times, we are recording this session. So what we will do is that I'll go ahead and we'll get that recording uploaded to our site to provide people with access to it. And so that, some of our customers who I know are in some of the other parts of the world, like the UK and Europe, where this session was a little bit late for them, can go ahead and actually view that recording and get the benefit of that. Last but by no means least, as I mentioned at the very beginning, don't hesitate to get in touch with us. We want to hear from you. We want to help in any way that we can. So that is easily done through our support email address, which is service@loc8.com. Or alternatively, again, if you click on your little avatar there on the bottom left-hand corner and climb up to the help option and then click on send us a message, you can go ahead and have a chat with one of our team there using our little chat option there as well. So thank you so much, everybody, for your time today. Thanks so much for spending the time out of your day to check in with us and to obviously, spend time around this particular session. And I am very much looking forward to doing a next session. We'll have an alert and an email out to let customers know what that next session will be and what it'll be covering and when it's going to be, hopefully in the next couple of days here. And please don't hesitate to get in touch with us whenever you have questions. We want to help in any way we can. So thanks so much, everybody, and have a great day. And we'll look forward to speaking to you all very, very soon. Take care. Bye-bye.